Welcome into week 7 of the NFL. We got a ton of big bets coming for you, a recap of what happened in week 6 and a bunch of value on the other side. Let's get into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
All right. That song always just gets me so hype.
It's a banger.
It's such a banger. All right. Coming off I would say mediocre week. We went 3-3. The model was basically a little bit. We lost the VIG basically, but model is still killing it. We're at 55% win rate. We're going to cover a bunch of games and we're going to hop off right on Thursday Night Football. We're looking at the Broncos versus the Saints here in a battle of the rookie quarterbacks. We now have Rattler and Bo Nix. Bo Nix obviously has a number of games ahead here of Bo Nix, of Rattler, but Rattler coming in here. Our model shows a ton of value. We're going to break it down on what that number exactly points out. But Steve, I want to start with some of your thoughts here on what you make of this game. What are some trends that we should be following?
Yeah. So first and foremost, let's hop into it. Broncos versus Saints. So this opened up at Saints -1.5. It's completely flipped over to Broncos -2.5. Broncos 4-2 against the spread overall, 3-0 against the spread as an away team. Saints are 3-3 against the spread overall, 1-2 against the spread at home. Now, one of the big reasons I believe this line has moved so dramatically in Broncos' favor is not just because of Bo Nix is the wonder boy here, but you've got a concerning slew of injuries for the Saints. Now, obviously, we talked about Derek Carr last week. Going into this week, that oblique still did not practice. You've got Rashid Shaheed concerning the injury. I'm not sure what's going to be his season, but he's for sure going to be out. Then you got Chris Olave, who's suffering a concussion. Shout out to Sportsmet Analytics. Looking like he's probably not going to be back for week 7 as well. And then don't forget, you got Cesar Ruiz, right guard, out with an injury, as well as your will linebacker in Pete Werner. So a lot of injuries for the Saints coming in there. So this one's pretty concerning to me. So I definitely can see, we've seen the Broncos kind of beat up on some of these teams, i.e. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we thought were really good, and we were on the wrong side of that. So this one is just a war of attrition kind of game for me. But let me know, is this something that we should be concerned about from the data standpoint? Or are the Saints really just not as good of a team anymore? Is the hype dead?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. I mean, you've highlighted a lot of the injury concerns, and there are a lot. And quite frankly, on both sides, though, the one thing I will point out here is Denver is got a lot of questions on cornerback. I think 4 of their cornerbacks, including their best and Patrick Surtain, are questionable or did not practice. So, I would point that out. But the data show a bit of an interesting, I don't want to say mixed review. Denver, I don't think anybody's thinking of them as world beaters offensively. This is a team that is 25th against passing the ball and 21st running the ball. Now, New Orleans, a little bit better offensively. We're talking about the 20th passing offense and the 10th rushing offense. The one thing I do want to point out here is both these defenses are really good. New Orleans 5th against the pass, 27th against the rush. Denver 2nd against the pass, 9th against the rush. So I think we're going to get a lot of defense for both these teams. The one thing I do want to point out about the injury angle and why I'm not super freaking out. Now, it sucks that we have a 1.5 when now you can get 2.5s. -1.5 is what we have. You can get +2.5s in the market. But I want to point out this interesting stat here for you. The Saints are a run-first team, and we're looking at a team that runs the ball 7% more than an average team. So I'm not obviously you want to have your weapons like Chris Olave, and you want to have these weapons. But quite frankly, if Kamara and Taysom Hill are going to be goes for this game, I'm not sure that I'm freaking out as much. I also hinted to it. Yes, New Orleans is going to be down a lot of their key guys at wide receiver. But again, Denver potentially is going to be down 4 guys at corner. Is this the get right game or the coming out party for Spencer Rattler? Because he's going to be able to throw to these guys because he's going to go up against, second tier corners and safety. So it's gross as hell. I think there's a ton of variance here. You're betting on 2 rookie quarterbacks. Quite frankly, you don't know what the hell you're buying. I would much more like the spot if we were getting Derek Carr and obviously a healthy offense from the New Orleans, because I think that's what will set us up for getting the most kind of firepower. But we are where we are. Obviously, a 2.5 is what I'd prefer to get now, but that's not what we have. I think, what did we end up giving out? I think we end up giving out ones.
We got a 1 at a -1 and +100.
Yeah, -1 at +100. So Yeah, negative CLV as of now. But again, I want to zoom in on that angle. Don't let, can this be a bloodbath? 100%. Denver can beat up on New Orleans if they can't run the ball. But there are still a lot of questions for Denver. Don't forget about those questions. One, and then two, New Orleans is a run first team. If you have Kamara, you have Taysom, they might have the pieces to put a lot of what their offense is on the field. And then with those corners down for Denver, it isn't just a slam dunk here that, it's just going to be lopsided Denver. So just don't follow the hype if this goes through the 3 and it just seems like it could be, Denver all day. Now it could be, but
Sure.
there are some spots here New Orleans can highlight, and this is the Sean Payton return tour. Like I don't know if
Right.
that plays into, I guess, the Denver side. I don't really know. Do you think there's something there? They didn't leave on bad blood. He left. He's like, I'm done.
Right, right. Then they came back. Yeah, I don't know. I do want to say two things real quick. First and foremost, Street Impala, you are not wrong. We are doing this live. We're switching up a little bit. So shout out to you. Shout out to the chat. Guys, feel free to put your comments in. We want to hear you chime in all episode. We're trying a new thing here. This will post again on Thursday at noon Eastern. So you are definitely getting a huge sneak peek. And Jeremy, I do agree. Saying if Patrick Stan is out, it's a complete game changer. Seth, to your point here, I think as it grows to this bet feels, right? You obviously want to get the best number, right? So we are a -1, could have got a +2.5 because of the news here. But what gives me hope is, like you mentioned, we talk about New Orleans offense, and they're a great passing team. But this season so far, they still are a very great running team. And you kind of highlighted this. And so, yes, you have questions with Spencer Rattler, and he hasn't looked great so far. But don't forget, New Orleans this season, as far as EPA per play goes, on a rush, they are ranked 5th. So there is a game plan here for them to go through. And Denver, looking at just this sort of a 6-game sample size, is right in the middle of a pack. So it's not like they're really adept at stopping the run. So New Orleans can absolutely lean into this. And I wonder if that's enough of a reset, because we've seen this New Orleans offense, quite frankly, take a huge step back in the last couple of games. So honestly, a game plan change might be what the doctor ordered for them. So I'm with you. I'm not necessarily ringing the alarm bells. I think it's important for people to know if they're going to bet into this game, understand why the line is moving, understand what you're kind of getting into. But there absolutely is a key to success here. Make no mistake about it for New Orleans here.
Yeah, this isn't in 2020 where it was this exact matchup and Denver literally didn't have a quarterback, and this got to 14 and the market was freaking out. This is not that. Now, obviously there are concerns, huge concerns for what you're going to get at a number of positions there for the Saints. But again, I want to highlight there are still a lot of concerns on what you're going to get from Denver defensively. And you talked about the Tampa Bay game. There was a number of key defensive linemen out for Tampa Bay. And to me, that was what won, Denver the game. They weren't able to get pressure. And this Denver team and Bo Nix, who hasn't been that successful, was able to move the ball. I'm not sure we're not talking about any defensive players being out for New Orleans. And they were good last year. They're good this year. Now they have regressed a bit, but we're still talking about a 5th overall pass defense here. And what we saw Bo Nix struggle a lot against this Chargers team last week. And so I think that they're, I'm not super uncomfortable where we're at with it. Obviously, you don't like the negative CLV, but yeah, I'm with you. There's a pathway to success. So let us know what you think. Do you think that we got this one wrong? Do you think we got this one right? This is obviously a model play for us on the New Orleans Saints -1. All right, we're headed.
Yeah. Can I say one last thing before we move on?
Of course.
Just kind of put back, because I know we have a very small sample size with both the quarterbacks, even more small with Spencer Rattler, but just to sprinkle some objectivity for the folks out there. The PFF grades, right? We talk about how these quarterbacks rank. So Bo Nix is currently ranked 29th out of all quarterbacks. So kind of put that into perspective with an offensive score of 60.5. Spencer Rattler coming in at 64.8. So we talk about this idea of, backup quarterbacks and what's going to be a huge drop off or not. But Spencer Rattler compared to Bo Nix may not be the drop off you think. Like, yeah, Spencer Rattler to Derek Carr, sure. But you're rookie against rookie, quite frankly, anything can happen. I mean, for our model, let's pull the curtain back a little bit. They're the same person, right? Like we put them all in the rookie bucket, so to speak. And I don't want to over exaggerate, but meaning that, let's not overread into this. It's still rookie on rookie action with a team that's built to be more than just a passing team.
Yeah, and we have exactly that. And one thing I want to point out here. So we use it's a complex methodology, so we don't got to get into the weeds here. But we do put into individual EPA per play, sack rate, for each quarterback. So we are using their sack rates. Obviously, Rattler has 1 game worth of sack rate, and Bo Nix has a couple of games worth of sack rate. But yeah, they're actually quite similar, almost identical in the game, the small sample that we have. So yeah, this is we're getting the same level of play at quarterback, in my opinion. I agree with you on that. Okay. Headed into the Sunday night or the Sunday games, we have a number of really great matchups. There's a number of ones we're going to talk about. This is one of the first, in my opinion, one of the best divisional matchups we're going to see so far, and that is the Lions versus the Vikings. And this is an interesting game. Obviously, Detroit coming off of what, as the kids say now, belt to ass against the Cowboys there, and Minnesota off a bye. Detroit looks really good offensively, obviously something we've become accustomed to in the last couple of seasons. Minnesota, on the other hand, I would say on a bit of a different trajectory that I can remember in last year. They're obviously 5-0 riding high. The Sam Darnold signing seems to be the kind of key to unlock everything there. Let's talk about some of these key trends, Steve. These are both really good teams, and I believe these are the first divisional matchups for both these teams.
Yeah. So looking into this, so right now we have the Vikings coming in at 4-1 against the spread, 2-1 against the spread as an away team, or excuse me, the Lions 4-1 against the spread, 2-0 against the spread as an away team. The Vikings 5-0, the only undefeated team against the spread in the NFL, which obviously means they're undefeated at home, 2-0 there. Now, key thing, we saw this line open up in the Vikings -2.5, get bought down to Vikings -1, then bought back up to -2.5. We saw Aiden Hutchinson leg injury, kind of pretty gruesome there. He's done for the year. Key part of that defensive line here. The one thing I want to talk about before we hop into the numbers, Seth, is we talk about the Vikings on this trajectory, and we've been talking about them for a couple of years now. And last year, it was the opposite way, or really 2 years ago, it was the opposite way, as the Vikings were winning games, right? They had a great record, but for all intents and purposes, they got lucky, right? They had all these one-score games go in their direction, even though statistically they were a quite literally mid-team, right? They were quite there in a median team in terms of their expected points added per play on offense and defense. This year is completely different. This year looks like a team that is 5-0, but doing so in a dominant fashion. I don't have any questions that this team is who we think they are and what we're seeing on the field Sunday in and Sunday out. Am I crazy there? Or what do you think is sort of the edge going to be here in this Lions versus Vikings game?
Yeah, I come back to the numbers, obviously, and something we spend a lot of time in trying to quantify and understand, and is that really that 15 game sample. And in that 15 game sample, which obviously is going to take us now back to some games in 2023, Minnesota's offense is mediocre, median, 15th offense. Detroit, number 2. Now, again, we've come accustomed to that, but on the defensive side of the ball, this is something I found interesting. Minnesota is the 6th overall defense, but Detroit, remember, they struggle defensively. They're the 23rd. And so we're looking at a Detroit team that right now is 7th against the pass, 8th against the rush, but again, 23rd in that 15 game sample. So my question is, what are we going to get out of Detroit? Are we going to see regression back to that number, or have we really seen a true fix here for the Detroit Lions? And I don't know the answer here. This one's really tricky. I think you mentioned it a bit, but the market is also a pretty, I don't say confused, but they definitely have differing opinions here. Opened at 2.5, got bought all the way down to -1, and then got bought back all the way back to the -2. So this is some differing opinion here for both these teams and differing support. To talk about some of the quarterback play, both these teams or both these quarterbacks are playing very similar. Goff is the 9th best quarterback in our database right now. Darnold's the 10th. So we're getting very, very similar quarterback play out of these guys. We have the Vikings coming off a bye, and I know that plays into our model. You can see here we make the number -2, so a slight edge here depending on when you bet it for the Vikings. That's to me the curiosity. Can Minnesota slow down Detroit? And then the other huge question here is Hutch. Shout out to the real champ, the real 704 champ here. He had a plus 1,600 MVP ticket for Hutchinson, I believe, or maybe the defensive player of the year. And obviously he's down. Yeah, condolences to you. I'm concerned what that means. And I think maybe that's a bit of a data point that you might see regression back to that 15 game sample defense. Obviously, it sounds like Detroit's shopping in the market to find a replacement before free agency. So if you're a Lions fan, I mean, at least this injury happened for you to have time. But I'm wondering what that's going to look like in this game, where Minnesota has basically had success, not necessarily on the ground, but through the air. Again, Minnesota, the 10th best passing team, but the 23rd rushing offense. So if you can't pressure this team, I do think they're going to have success in the air, and I think success in the air is going to lead to a win and a cover. Now, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe there are more pieces to this Detroit defense than just starting with that defensive line, but I do think that could be a huge piece of it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not betting this. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I think this will be a good game. I'm really curious to see what we're going to get at Detroit. Is this the beginning of the regression for Minnesota? The 5-0. Is this going to be the time that they turn back into Minnesota? That's a mediocre team. I don't know.
Yeah. I will end on this note though, before we move on to the next matchup. As a Bears fan, I want to say two things real quick. One, NFC North is absolutely killing it right now. Statistically, the best division in the league in terms of win-loss and competitiveness. And two, as a Bears fan, I would absolutely run through a brick wall for Dan Campbell. So for me, like, this is one of those teams. Like, these are two really good feels, and these are two really feel-good franchises, feel-good stories with Sam Darnold kind of coming back. Also, can we take a quick second? Because you had a really good post about this that I want to talk about for the folks in the chat, anyone who watches this. Sam Darnold comeback player of the year. You had a post about, is it really kind of predatory that the books are offering Sam Darnold CPOY tickets? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So comeback player of the year, there was guidance basically this year given to, so this is voted on by writers. So you basically, if you get a vote basically, right? Depending on where you work or whatever, you get a vote. And there was guidance given out of what the criteria should be for voting on this. Now, a voter doesn't have to use that guidance. They could use any guidance they want. But the tricky thing here is that guidance basically would deter somebody from betting on him. But yet, I think he's the fourth or third overall best odds for winning this in the current marketplace. And so the question really becomes, do sportsbooks have a responsibility to not put up Sam Darnold in that market? Because realistically, he can't win. Or at least probabilistically, he can't win. Technically speaking, he can. But it's more of just, I don't know. It seems pretty predatory to me because you're basically offering a bet that basically can't win. But the way I go back and forth. Is it predatory? Yes. But at a fundamental level, aren't all retail books predatory? Like, isn't that literally the definite? They're literally selling to you a bet where you do not have the edge.
Yeah.
And the public eats it up. So it seems like fallacy of the beard here. I'm not sure where a spread bet doesn't seem predatory, but then that bet does seem predatory. But once you start breaking it down, it's really hard to say, well, why is that predatory, but this isn't predatory?
Sure.
So I don't know. I not a market we're betting in, but I found it quite interesting.
Yeah.
All right. You got an opinion on that?
Oh, no, on the game or the
on the predatoriness.
Oh yeah, no, but I'll say that soapbox for later. But yeah.
Okay,
I agree.
What about the game?
The game, yeah. So I'm coming back to this. This is my off the numbers pick for later on. So I have a very strong opinion on this game.
Okay, all right, roll tide. Okay, we're headed into what might be the best matchup of the weekend, in my opinion. When I was trying to handicap this, Kansas City versus San Francisco. Holy moly, these teams both are Kansas City undefeated, San Francisco not undefeated, but still one of the best teams in the league. They basically are both really good offenses, interesting defenses. Break this down for me, Steve. Is there a glaring, value on this game?
Yeah, so so this one opened at 49ers -1, essentially has stayed there from all intents and purposes. You're coming in Chiefs 4-1 against the spread, 2-0 against the spread as an away team. Niners 3-3 against the spread, 3-3 as favorites, and 2-1 at home here. So if you look here, we can see that we have this model breakdown. For those of you who are new, kind of what you're looking at right now is the model prediction. Essentially, we make this a pick 'em compared to the opening spread. then we have a cover probability, and then what
Yeah.
that edge is. So for us right now, what this how this reads is we make this game a pick 'em. At 1, there is no value. See -2 to -3% for depending on which team you bet on there. What I am curious about though, San Francisco, kind of a more and not really a huge factor here, but potentially could come into the play. So we talked 2 weeks ago about how the kicker Jake Moody got injured on that kickoff return. They signed Wright as the backup kicker to then take over kickover duties. Then he got hurt in that game as well. So now they're on potentially a third kicker in 3 weeks here.
Yeah.
Trying to see what that does to the mindset, what that does for a team in terms of PATs, going for twos, going forward on fourth down, depending on field position, and how does that sort of affect this team? One of the things that these two teams are really good about is driving the ball. If you guys haven't heard, we talk about Elko rate. And so Elko rate is really taking the team and how often are they getting to the opponent's 40? Because once you get to the opponent's 40, you expect points. And we talk about that in terms of EPA or expected points added. These two teams are some of the best in the
Yeah.
league to ever do it. So when you talk about two teams that have clear strengths, two teams that are really good at what they do, it's hard for me to separate it out. And I think a pick 'em is appropriate. But tell me, Seth, is there a team that model be damned you think has an advantage here?
Yeah, not really. I mean, this Pick'em is spot on. Both these teams have their strengths and both these teams have their weaknesses. San Francisco in our 15 game sample is the number one overall offense, but in the 2024 season, we've seen them be the 5th overall pass offense and the 12th rushing offense. And again, we've seen a number of injuries there for them on running back. Kansas City is the 11th overall offense, 15th and 9th on pass and rush respectively. And then on defense, we're kind of seeing these teams play about what they were last year. Our Kansas City 15 game sample, they were 10th this season. They're 14th and 7th against the pass and the rush. And San Francisco was 17th in our sample, but they are playing the 9th pass and the 18th rush defense. The one concern I have here for San Francisco, although the stats all bear out, taking into the context of the injuries with where they have at running back, pass rate over expected or for San Francisco is -3%. What does this mean? It means that they run the ball 3% more than an average team. One of the few teams that do this in the NFL, and yet here we are where they're down Christian McCaffrey, they're down their number 2. Is that going to be the game plan they go up with? And the reason I bring that up is if we look at this team's game plan variance, how much these teams are varying what they do each week. Are they passing more? Are they running more? We can take a look at this graph here that's going to be pulled up here in a second. And basically what you'll see here is you'll see that San Francisco and Kansas City are in that quadrant right there on the left. And you can see basically what this is saying is that their game plan variance is below average. This is a team that is who they are week in and week out. They are not chasing what you're going to give them. They are going to do what they want to do to you. And you can see San Francisco is a team that isn't chasing matchups, which makes me believe this is a team that's going to want to run the ball. But again, we talked about them being out some of these key pieces. So what are you going to get there? Is this team going to kind of change who they are? We know that Shanahan is definitely capable of creating an offensive scheme through either quick passes, using Debo to run that, but I'm still very curious on what we're going to get. And that's the only question I have here. If this was a healthy, San Francisco team, yeah, 100% pick them. Hard to tell. That makes me lean just ever so slightly in the direction of Kansas City. We can talk about all the stats around the Chiefs off of a bye and Andy Reid off a bye. That's obviously an impressive rate. Both these teams off a bye, I think, brings me back a little bit that San Francisco can have an answer to that question, but it's still a bit of concern for me. Anything there for you?
Yeah, no, and I was trying to pull up right now because you did bring up an interesting point. You talk about the CMC injury, the Jordan Mason. Now, looks like Mason will be back. I think he had an AC joint issue.
Oh,
going
really?
on
He's
with his
going to play
shoulder.
in this game.
Well, so I watching out from Sportsbet Analytics. Early signs that he could return, and I haven't seen anything that said he's definitively out just yet.
Okay.
But something I'm keeping an eye out on. So let's just hypothetical there for a second. Let's not treat that as gospel. But to that point, I think you already rattled these stats off before. But I'm looking at on the offense, what is San Francisco more efficient at, or were they really efficient at? And this year, at least, looks like running the ball is kind of their bread and butter, right? Obviously, we talk about Brock Purdy and his efficiency as a quarterback, but running the ball is their bread and butter, and that it can be a weakness for Kansas City coming in, at least for this season, this 6-game sample size, ranking towards the bottom third in terms of EPA per rush allowed. So to your point about San Francisco wanting to do what they're going to do to you, running to run the ball, could that be enough to kind of keep them in this game despite all the other kind of issues going on there? I don't know. To me, like, that's still not strong enough for me to definitively say one way or the other. But I think there is a game plan for success for both teams.
Yeah. And again, both off buys, you're going to get their best shot.
Right.
The only thing I would say is it's harder for San Francisco if they don't even know if they're going to have healthy players. They can't game plan the same way, right?
Right.
And so I think that's to me where the concern is. And again, that lower than average game plan variance, they're basically saying, this is who we are, this is what we're going to do, you figure it out. Right. And so, look, that goes both ways, because if they're not going to chase matchups, it means that they're very sure on what they're going to do. And so with the bye week, maybe they're more sure on what they're going to do, and they actually can have success throwing the ball or running Debo or whatever that's going to look like, more screens, whatever it is. So I don't know. All I know is this is going to be a hell of a game. I'm super excited to get to watch this game. I can't pick a side here. I really couldn't tell you. I just know it's going to be a good game.
Yeah. Can we take a quick second, if you don't mind? Because I think it's a good time to talk about injuries. The real 704 champ, or sorry, Street Impala asked about how do we factor in injuries into the model? Because really, you have a team-based, individual-based model conceptually, and we spend a lot of time on the quarterback. But I remember before you said something that was really, I think, important for the people to know about not overestimating running backs specifically in injuries there in terms of how efficient an offense will remain. Can you just talk about, generally speaking, about how we do with injuries in the model?
Injuries. So we have a way to deal with quarterback injuries. We really don't have any way to deal with, like, a running back being out. Now, if a running back like Christian McCaffrey is out for a number of games, because you're measuring these statistics on a play-by-play basis, you are measuring what this team's output is without that person. So it's not a perfect science, and this is quite frankly why we don't bet at close. At close, if you want to bet in the NFL, you need to be able to quantify every player's worth in the whole NFL, and I literally mean every single player. And so we don't bet that. And we were just talking about Denver. This cuts both ways, and we talk about it a lot. And everyone says, "Well, what about the injury report?" Sure, you do end up getting burned on a handful of games, but we're going to talk about a game later on where the injury report goes in your direction and the market moves 3-4 points. So it's one of those things where you just have to use your aggregate statistics. We have a methodology for quarterbacks, which is it's for sure the most impactful position in NFL, which gets us close enough and allows us to handle some of the bigger situations. But yeah, like a situation like this where the backup is out, it's really hard, or potentially out. It's really hard for us to put exactly like, oh, well, that's worth 0.2 points or something like that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. We're headed into, I don't know when this game is, but Jets, Pittsburgh.
Sunday night football, baby.
This is Sunday night football. Oh, damn. I don't know what I thought San Francisco, Kansas City. That seems like a mistake here. This game is ugly, in my opinion. I got to eat some humble pie. Let's get this out of the way. A couple weeks, I said, where's Devontae Adams going to go? He's up for trade. You guys said, oh, he's for sure going to the Jets. I said, no way, Jose. There's no way. It doesn't make any sense. They're not one wide receiver away. Now, I got to pat myself on the back here a bit. They may have got Devontae, but they're sitting here with one head coach less. So, I mean, this team is not all roses. This is definitely a team, in my opinion, that's in a spiral. But let's talk about this matchup specifically. We're talking about Jets. We're talking about Pittsburgh. These are two very, very, very interesting teams, two defensively driven teams, in my opinion. But let's break down some stats, Steve. Tell me about what you see in this game.
Yeah, 100%. So coming into this, Jets are 2-4 against the spread, 1-1 against the spread as an away team, 0-3 against the spread as dogs. Steelers 4-2 against the spread, 1-1 at home, 3-2 as favorites. This line opened up at Steelers -1, moved to -1.5. I checked just a couple hours ago, see if the Devontae news really had any effect on this, and I didn't see anything. I'm double checking right now to make sure I give you all the most accurate information from our odds screen. Shout out Unabated. If you need an odds screen, you can use Unabated. Use code BTB for a free 5-day trial. And lo and behold, it's
flipped.
Jets -1.5. It has gone through, completely flipped. You are correct there.
Yeah. Sell this move. Sell this move. Sell.
I could not agree more. But go, yeah. I'll
No,
let you start.
no, let's hear it. You go. You go.
No, I mean, listen. So if you all are new here, obviously we're taking a data-driven approach to our betting, right? So you don't really hear us talk about points per game, yards per game, things you hear on like ESPN and whatnot, because we use these other advanced metrics that really are a lot more predictive of outcomes, which would be winning and losing a game, and then next step would be covering a game, right? So I'm gonna let Seth take care of that. I'm just gonna give you the eye test. This is absolutely a sell team. So Pittsburgh, you can talk about their defensive prowess. Like Pittsburgh, week in and week out has been one of the best defenses in both rushing and pass. But then you look at Jets, right? The Jets is a team that they hang their hat on. This team is just like Seth mentioned. They're not one receiver away. They're not one head coach away. Like there is just something dysfunctionally wrong. Even though they have great pieces there, even though they have a Sauce Gardner, they have a Garrett Wilson, they have an Aaron Rodgers, and they'll have a Devontae Adams right now. What I love about Pittsburgh is sneakily one of a very efficient offensive teams, particularly passing the ball, even though they look like absolute dog shit. Justin Fields, PFF grade, he slipped a little bit in recent weeks. He's down to the 17th overall quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is number 11, right? So there's really not that world of a difference between them. But no, I love this Pittsburgh play going in there. But Seth, tell me, why am I crazy, or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy. I think we're very much aligned here. And the biggest data point I can give you in the 32 game sample, New York Jets are the 32nd, aka the worst offense in the database. Okay.
Mm.
And you'd be like, oh, okay, well, that was last year. This is this year. No, nothing has changed. New York, 21st passing offense, 26th rushing offense. They still struggle. In fact, they have the same exact amount of points through 6 weeks as they did last year with Zach Wilson. Okay. So when you go get Devontae, does that help you a little bit? Maybe, but they are not one wide receiver away from winning the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is definitely an interesting team. They're 22nd running the ball, 13th passing the ball. They're very much using the run to set up their pass, and Fields is kind of really honestly flourishing in the system. I did see a comment in here. Looks like Russ is starting. I would disagree that Russ is starting. What Tomlin's comments were that he's under consideration. To me, that is coach speak. This is double speak for I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do, so you don't know what to game plan for. Those are two different quarterbacks with two insanely different game plans. Russ can't move out of the pocket at all. Part of Fields' brilliance and efficiency is getting out of the pocket. In fact, we're seeing specific plays for him. I would find it hard to believe where this team is. I think they only have 2 losses that they would be pulling the starting quarterback at this point. That's my opinion. This is again, a team for me that both these teams are good defensively. Again, I just don't think Devontae, you're going to just plug him in and then all of a sudden you're going to go from the worst offense to the best offense. Oh yeah, against a top 10 defense in Pittsburgh. It's not like this is a get right spot for the Jets for their offense where they're going to go up against one of the easiest defenses in the league. No, this is one of the hardest defenses in the league. And what do they do better than any quarterback? Pressure, pressure, pressure. I understand that getting the ball out is going to be a little bit easier with Devontae. Is that going to be possible within less than 7 days? I'm not sure. If not, I think, we've seen Rodgers be susceptible to pressure this season. He's not as mobile as he's been, obviously with a lot of number of injuries. To me, this, you get me to the 2.5 plus 2.5 pit. This is a bet. This is a bet. Yeah. It's got to be a bet. The current move, although it is a lot of points, are pretty much meaningless points. Moving through the 1 to the 0 to now, the +1, you really get no, bump in expected value because, games don't really end. Ties are extremely rare. +1, -1. There's basically, it's hard for a team to win or lose by 1. So when you start to get at least to that 2.5 number, you have you're speaking some language. So that's what I'm looking out for. If the market wants to overreact here, and I almost look at this as a reopen. Because this is just a move based off the news, just like if it was an injury. I just can't say it enough. The Jets are not one wide receiver away, period. And these kumbaya over and over. They wanted Randall Cobb. Okay, well, what happened there? They wanted this. They wanted that. They wanted Nathaniel Hackett. Oh, it's going to be this coming out party. They cannot relive the good old days of Green Bay, okay? They're just the good old days. I don't think they're going to happen. I don't think they're going to get a replay. I don't think this is a meaningful trade. Can they, does it get them 1 or 2 extra games? Maybe. I don't think this is one of the games for me that they get rant over. What else? What did I miss?
Nothing. I just want to end with Jets 2 wins this year are against the Titans and the Patriots. I mean, this is just a different league. We've seen them go against actually good teams, the Niners, the Bills, and actually I'll take one away. I don't know if the Broncos are a good team just yet. They're definitely a team that's figuring things out. But when you see them play legitimate competition, yeah, they're close games, but they're not winning them. They're not getting over the hump. They don't have the capability there. I think that continues against the Steelers.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to point out for success for Pitt, I think what it might look like is a little bit more throwing than normal, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see what this ends up looking like. I mean, obviously, it will be big news if Russ does end up getting the start. Again, I would find that extremely shocking given where Pittsburgh is and how they're kind of leveraging both parts of the game. I think, unfortunately for Russ, he just got injured at the wrong time, and I don't see from a momentum standpoint what you would gain. I don't think what we've seen from Russ, you're getting anything what we've seen from Fields, you're getting anything extra or different from Russell. If anything, you're losing the run aspect of it. So I that would be my opinion on that. All right.
Yeah.
So Jets Pitt, give me Pitt. If at 2.5, I will bet it. I will bet at 2.5 plus 2.5. Give it to me, baby. At 2.5, I might consider even taking money line.
Money line. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, give it to me, baby. All right, we're aligned here. What could go wrong? All right, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, another really, really interesting matchup. Both these teams, as I went through the numbers, are kind of a little bit different than what I remember. But I want to start with you, Steve. What are you thinking about this game? Where are we at with both these teams? Are both these teams kind of overachieving, underachieving? Where are we at with this game?
Yeah. All right. So Monday Night Football, Ravens 3-2-1 against the spread, 2-1 against the spread away, 3-1-1 as favorites. Bucks 4-2 against the spread, 2-1 at home, and 2-1 as dogs. Ravens open up at -4. That's been slightly bought down to Ravens -3.5. And for me, I mean, we've talked about having the Ravens be on the Ravens side both this season and last season, and how this team just seems to collapse in the fourth quarter. Like no lead is absolutely safe. But then you see the Ravens kind of putting these things together. And once you get Lamar holding on to the ball and not turning it over, and Garrett Henry doing his thing, this team looks absolutely formidable. And we talked about it. And can we pull up the EPA landscape? When we talk about matchups here, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So when we look at the matchups here, so what you're looking at is further to the right you are, the better your offense is. Close to the top you are, the better your defense is. And so you're looking at this split here. Baltimore's offense really has seemed unstoppable, which is good because their defense, which statistically was the best in the league a year ago, has taken a huge regression back the other way. But it seems as if their offense can do enough to keep them going. And quite frankly, I think I expect more of the same coming into to this matchup here. And what I was looking for, and Seth, I'm not sure if you have it on hand, but if I remember correctly, Tampa Bay, in terms of defensive rush statistics, they're, if not the worst, one of the worst teams this season in rush defense.
Yeah, 24th in our
24th. Okay, yeah. Versus you look at Baltimore, what does Baltimore do very well? Run the damn ball. So to me, this is one of those matchups where you can absolutely see sort of a mismatch favor into the Baltimore's game plan, where Baltimore can do what they want to do and have pretty much a field day. Baker's been playing absolutely out of his mind overall this season. Love what the Bucks are doing, but I think they might be overmatched here. Seth, tell me, am I crazy there, or what do you see happening in this game?
No, you've hit on a really important thing. If we can bring up the game plan variance, I think we see a very interesting data point for both of these teams. And so I want to go over some of these stats. So you talked about it. Baltimore is the third most efficient pass team, but the second best rushing offense in our database. And Tampa Bay is the 8th overall passing offense, 5th rushing offense. We talked about some of the defensive numbers now. Tampa Bay 12th against the pass, but 24th against the rush. Seems right for the Ravens to be able to take advantage of the poor rushing defense for Tampa Bay. But on the Tampa Bay offensive side, remember, 8th throwing the ball, Baltimore 25th in defending the pass. This is the opposite is true for Tampa Bay. They might be able to exploit the bad Baltimore secondary. And what do we see here? I want to bring this graph up again. We have two teams on the opposite side of this chart. We see Tampa Bay, and then even further is Baltimore. And we can see that these teams are teams going after matchups. What does that mean? Look for Tampa Bay to be throwing the ball early and often, and look for Baltimore to be running the hell out of the ball. And who more do you want to do that than Lamar and Henry? Probably two of the best teams. So two angles you're really going to be wanting to look at here. You're going to be really wanting to look at that rushing aspect for Baltimore, and you're going to be really wanting to target the passing aspect for Tampa Bay. A lot of player prop opportunities, a lot of bets there. I think that the right play for me probably is in the direction of Baltimore, because again, if they're able to run the ball on a team that can run the ball very well, like Baltimore, what that does is eat clock. It's really hard to get in a shootout, and it's really hard for this game to kind of just be this long, this just kind of shootout game. And it just ends up being, 21-14, and it's kind of boring, but it's just a hard classic. I don't know if you want to call it a classic Baltimore win, but I think that there's more there than there is for me on the Tampa Bay side. But again, I'm really just interested that both of these teams, in my mind, when I think of them, I think of good defensive teams. That's really not the case with either of these teams. They're really just good on offense. And I guess it's just so surprising to me as I look at the data. When we look at echo rate, both these teams are moving the ball really well offensively. 14th for Baltimore, 12th for Tampa Bay. So these teams are getting to the 40 or better a lot of their drives. I think the better plays here are to be targeting the rushing stuff for Baltimore and the passing stuff for Tampa Bay. I think you're going to have much more success targeting those markets. Starting here on Tuesday, those markets aren't even open. When they open tomorrow, if you're able to snipe all the overs for, receivers and quarterback for Tampa Bay and all the running backs for Baltimore, you're going to see a lot of CLV, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. And if you're all new here, we call those run funnels and pass funnels, where again, these teams are just exploited to where they give up, a lot of yardage, a lot of efficiency to one side of the ball, especially. So teams kind of game plan around that, especially with teams like stuff just mentioned, like the Ravens, like the Buccaneers, who have a lot of game plan variance. So they're looking to change their offensive game plan style to best match up against their opponent. So I'm with you. I'm definitely excited to see what comes up when the player props drop. I'm definitely looking at rushing overs, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson potentially, and then looking at Baker's props as well.
Yeah, and wide receivers there as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
Evans and all them folks. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Opinion on this game? I guess I'd lean Baltimore. It seems a little bit square, but I wouldn't really go there. I wouldn't start there. I just don't think there's as much value, to be honest. You can easily see this be more of a field goal type of game if it is going to be a ground and pound kind of approach. So, there's that for me. But I don't know. One way, any strong feelings there for you?
Yeah, for me, it feels disgusting just because we know Baltimore's flaws, what they can be in the fourth quarter. But I'm with you. If I had to pick a side, I'm definitely picking Baltimore. I think at 3.5, for me, up to 4. I think 4 is reasonable. But I'm with you though. My first stop is going to be looking at player props 100% before trying to kind of go to a side.
Yeah, I definitely have some PTSD from betting on the Ravens in the past year. 2 weeks in a row, we were on them against Baltimore, and they for sure should not only not won the game, not cover the game, but somehow they make it out alive and cover that the game. And then last week, they're winning by 14, and you just can't help but to think, okay, here they go, start of the fourth, now time to give this game up and not only not cover this game, to lose this game somehow. Yeah. And they gave the first touchdown, and you just get perfect, right on time, here we go. But somehow they made it out of both those games with a win and a cover. So hey, maybe we're a whole new Baltimore world.
Yeah,
all right, that's it. That's all for matchups. Now we are going to talk about the efficiency landscape, who these teams are so far through 6 weeks. We're 1/3 through the season. We've seen a number of surprises, Washington being one of them. We're coming also now into bye week, so there's a number of teams that are kind of sitting out, getting a little bit more healthy, and then we're starting to see a number of trades. We talked about it. I think a good place to start will be with the Jets. You can see the Jets are pretty much damn near the middle. In my opinion, this is misleading. If you look at a 15-game sample, which is more predictive, this team is dead last in offense and one of the best defenses, to give them credit. Let's talk a little bit more about this Jets team. We've both said that this is not this team is not one wide receiver away, but what is realistic expectation for this Jets team?
I saw a meme today, and it was regarding the Devontae trade. And it said, if you don't love us at 2-4, don't love us at 6-11. And I think that that's pretty spot on here. I mean, I don't, for me, I don't want to call it like an organizational thing, but it's really hard. I mean, ask any Jet fan of all time, right? Like you can see that there's just a depth to losing. And I don't know if Zach Wilson was the problem. You look at Sam Darnold and how he's flourishing, you look at Geno Smith and how he's flourishing, and Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's 40, so expectations were tempered, but what are we really thinking here? For me, you kind of hit it. You say, they're one of the best defenses looking at a 15 game sample size. And part of me, I still put the blame on the offense. I still put the blame on the offense. Like Brees Hall's, it's okay. That's fine. You've got Garrett Wilson there, but I think just something schematically is just not clicking. I don't know if it's Nathaniel Hackett. We saw how that worked out last year. It was kind of an absolute shit show. I don't know, but it's more than just one piece, or at least the synergy of what you're getting is not. It's not the sum of all its pieces. It's something far, far, far less. And I think it's beyond the players at this point.
Yeah, it's just they're trying to relive the good old days, and the good old days are gone. Okay,
Yeah.
like you can't get them back for whatever reason. Because remember, it's 11 men on a field. Just because you got the 3 of them, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the same result. I guess 4 of them, they have Lazard. I don't know if Randall Cobb's still on that team. Maybe maybe there are a little bit more, but I don't know. I just sell the hype, sell the hype, sell the hype. I mean, we were torn on this all season on what to do. There was some anecdotal data pointing that the Jets may have success, but all of the actual hard data was that this team is going to be mediocre. And so far, that's what we've seen. I don't know. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love who doesn't love a good comeback story. I love Aaron Rodgers' kind of need for just hate of authority. I can definitely empathize with him on that. So I'd kind of love him to see win just because of that. But unfortunately, I think he's given stubborn people a bad name, because he just seems like he's making poor decision after poor decision. They fire their head coach. That seems just out of nowhere. Then they make this trade. It just, I don't know, dumpster fire and a half. Headed to another dumpster fire, Cleveland.
Yes.
When do you pull the plug? So it's clearly the owner making this decision. There's no situation where you bench Deshaun?
No. And let me phrase that. Yes, there is, but no, they're not going to do it. And it's funny because we talked about this, and they've already been talking about reports about, can you even trade this? Can you find someone to trade Deshaun to just as a salary cap hit thing, and then you give them picks? So instead of like, oh, we want Deshaun for your quarterback or whatever, we'll give you Deshaun, and we'll give you conditional second, third round picks on top of that, and we'll take a conditional 6th, 7th rounder back, right? That's how as bad as it's going to get. The problem here is that you have the guarantee contract, right? So what you're seeing here is pride and ego. You can't bench Deshaun without mentioning or without admitting that you've made the worst trade in sports history so far. And so for me, that's the most concerning part, because unless something dramatic happens, and I don't know what can be more dramatic than the play of the Browns, the play of Deshaun this year, their overall record, as well as still the off the field allegations still slowly trickling in. Like, what more does it take for you to say, nah, we're not doing this? If you haven't reached it there, I don't know if you do. And my last point I want to make here, the reason why I'm so concerned about the Browns here is we talked last year, talk about a 15-game sample, the Browns, elite defense year in, year out the last few years. And now you're seeing them trickle down further and further from one of the top teams in all of NFL to statistically a below average defense. And a lot of that has to do with the defense being on the field for the majority of the game. Deshaun turning over, 3 and outs, things like that. So I don't know, man. I think this is one of the things that I don't want to get into auto fade. I don't want to throw that word out there, but the Browns are pretty hard to justify how you can back this team straight up against the spread within reason, obviously, or just as an organizational fan.
Yeah, and a bunch of new great comments coming in here, but this is one for Impala here. Yeah, no more Cooper. So yeah, I agree, and I think this is an important data point. If everything's fine, why are you trading Amari Cooper? Right? If everything is just like, yeah, no, it's all good, we're gonna figure this out. That is a weird piece to me. You said who you're going to have to, in order to trade him, you're going to have to give somebody a draft pick.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a blunder. Obviously, Cleveland is known for their blunders. They like to blunder. Maybe just as much as the Jets, two blundering franchises. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do. It doesn't even seem like Deshaun Watson wants to play. He literally just seems like he's
like a man with $300 million guaranteed.
Well, I was just gonna say he seems like the most true American aspect of life you could ever have. Like somebody that hates their job but needs their job to survive. Like it's just like the most American thing of all time. Just like hates it, but like, dude, I can't go anywhere else and make 300 million. And
Right.
it's probably true. It's probably true. If we can bring back the landscape here, I want to talk about some of the teams on the other end of the graph. Specifically, I want to talk about the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders have been really interesting. Obviously, rookie quarterback, they're blowing through, I mean, they saw their first bump in the road, but even they had a pretty fair amount of success against Baltimore. What's your kind of ceiling? We had some homework assignments for two teams, and it was Washington Commanders and it was the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. And so I want to start with Washington. You had called out, hey, is there a good bet there for them to make the I think win the division? Was that it?
Yeah, win the East. Yeah. I still fully stand by that. I mean, we've seen the Cowboys. Sure, Detroit's a good team, right? But we've been talking week in and week out about the Cowboys' woes and how they have absolutely not gotten that fix. And Eric, can we pull the landscape back up again? We look at this team here. I mean, the Cowboys, you can see them kind of in their own little space. So again, the bottom left-hand corner, we call that the quadrant of woe. So these are teams bad on offense, bad on defense, and Cowboys smack dab cemented in that quadrant of woe. I think that the expectations are far too great. And the market agrees. Right now, the best price you can get for Cowboys to win the East is plus 475. Obviously, that Lions beat down didn't help them there. So then you have the Giants. Like, do we really have to talk about this? The Giants are plus 5,000. We can all kind of agree that's probably dead. Shout out to Daniel Jones getting this back. So it becomes a two-team race in my mind between the Eagles and the Commanders. And do I think the Commanders are overperforming? Sure, you can make that argument. I can buy that. But the reality is the rest of the league, their ceiling is so much higher than the rest of the league. I can buy the Commanders winning out the East, even with regression, then I can buy the Eagles, quite frankly, and maybe the Cowboys regressing so far to the positive that they're now this much, much improved team and now competitive. So I'm with you there. I think I see plus 150 as the best odds for Washington, but I think you got some homework for us or some answers from us.
Yeah, I got some homework answers for you. Yeah. So I think unfortunately you were right a week ago and the market's caught up to your thought. So running the Sims, 157 plus 157 is what we make the number, as you were talking about, a lot of 140s, 150s in the market. So basically just a well-priced aspect of it. I don't remember what the numbers were last week, but I could have swore they were much, much higher than this.
Yeah.
And so the market's just caught up, unfortunately. So we're a week behind. The other team was Cincinnati. You had questions about the best number in the market is plus 900. We make this number plus 1,300 to win that division. So no EV on Cincinnati. I mean, maybe you feel differently about it, but the Sims show a bit of a different story. Where at least in Washington, you're mostly kind of right on market. And maybe with a couple more losses, as long as they're not divisional, you can pick up some equity there. But kind of right on the price. All right, can we pull up the landscape one more time? Are there any glaring teams you want to talk about? Obviously, we're going to get some more data with the VIkings, the number one defense right now. On the other end of that spectrum, LA, we're going to talk about them here in a minute. We've seen now all the main rookies, right? We have Drake May in his first start. A little bit interesting, but obviously they got dog walked. We have Bo Nix has already been starting. Rattler now starting with the Saints, a team that's been Jekyll and Hyde this season and seems unfortunately to be regressing in the wrong direction for what we forecasted them to be. And then what other rookies?
You know what other rookie?
Oh, wait,
Washington. You know what other rookie?
No, what? Which one? Washington. No. Yeah, Washington had a rookie. What? Which one?
Caleb Williams. You're gonna sit here and pretend
my bad. Okay, that's fair. We have a lot of positions against the Bears, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess for you. So we have them to miss the playoffs. We have them under 8.5 wins. It's not dead. It's actually just priced at what it was priced at. So No, he balled out against Jacksonville. I'll call this a bold statement. I don't think it's that bold. I don't think Jacksonville head coach makes it back from London with a job. I
Sure.
unfortunately think that they are. Look, the market is kind of sitting at 5.5 for the London game where New England's coming to town. But Drake May showed enough explosiveness against a secondary that couldn't stop anyone play in and play out. Chicago's defense has been playing out of their minds. Obviously, a really strong part of that team. Jacksonville, in my mind, if they lose this game, I think is going to fire Doug Peterson. But okay, let's talk about the Bears. What is the ceiling for them? Is it truly Super Bowl this season?
No. I think realistically, ceiling is wild card, maybe a playoff win, probably get into a divisional round loss in the playoffs. I think that's a legitimate. They go on a run. I'm not sure that the Bears can overcome both the Lions and Vikings. You can sell me on one. I don't know if you can sell me on both of them. To be fair. But I think what you're looking at is absolute confidence and a team that's adjusting to a quarterback. I mean, we saw Caleb get absolutely lit up with poor offensive line play, but the coach and the play calling did him zero favors. I think you're seeing that they're starting to slowly learn and say, hey, let's acclimate him. Let's make sure our play calling fits his strengths and also protects them. The biggest difference between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields is Caleb has a lot better of a mindset of getting that ball out quick. Fields tends to hold on to the ball, and that's why he absolutely got eaten alive in Chicago. I think the ceiling absolutely is playoffs. Unfortunately, for the tickets. I mean, full disclosure, I'm a Bears fan, and I try to be as emotionless as possible when it comes to betting. If you want to be on this journey to being professional, you got to be kind of heartless and just kind of trust the numbers. I could not do that. I could not do that to my Bears. So we'll see what happens. So I'm living guilt-free here. But the last thing I want to say is I am curious, who do you think has a better chance of redemption this season? We talk about two teams who are piss poor offensively, the Cleveland Browns and the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins have also been on a kind of a carousel of quarterbacks. Tyler Huntley obviously coming in trying to be the long-term answer there, but they just have not really looked good in any sense. Do you have any hope for?
It sounds like Tua's going to come back this season,
which is absolutely insane to me.
Is it though? I don't think it's that insane. What else do we expect him to do? Like, I'm done. I'm 25 or 26. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm not surprised, but yeah, I mean, so I think if Tua comes back, maybe they can get on track. I don't know if they're going to fall too far behind, and we don't have a timeline for when that's going to be. So, of the redemption stories, I think it's Miami for sure. Now, I think Miami will end up drafting a quarterback next year because of insurance policy. You have to. But yeah, I have no faith. The thing is with the Cleveland aspect, no one's going to bail them out of that problem, and so
right.
I think the ship is unfortunately going to continue to get worse. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll head to the off the numbers pick. This is a segment we like to do where we go over what we want to bet without using the model, or trying to at least think outside of the box. What are value that we can, maybe the model doesn't have us bet, where we see a lot of value on and we want to bet, and we think that we can angle our way to some profit. So let's get this out of the way. I am 1-2. What's your record, Steve?
1-2 as well.
1-2, and Kevin is undefeated. He's not here, but he's undefeated. He's the king of the NFL. The man can't be stopped. And so we each have a bet for you. Can we pull that up real quick? And we'll break them down if possible. All right, off the numbers. So Kevin is on Seahawks money line plus 136 over at FanDuel. Make every bet more. I don't even know who Seahawks are playing. Do we know that?
Here, I got you. The Seahawks are playing the Falcons this week.
Okay, the Falcons. I actually like him fading the Falcons. Good. Smart man. Okay. Steve, you tell us about your Vikings 1.5 here.
Yeah, I mean, this one, NFC North divisional battle. These two teams have been playing absolutely lights out. Obviously, we saw the Lions come off that beat down of the Cowboys there, and Dan Campbell has his team kind of rolling. But for me, the Vikings had just week in and week out not shown the vulnerabilities I would expect to have seen pop up so far in. I'm not going to get into the trends about them being 5-0 against the spread. That's great, but that's, that doesn't really come into play here. What I'm thinking at is that these are two teams that are strength on strength in terms of what Vikings do well on offense versus what defense or the Lions do well on defense, and vice versa. You have these two teams that are near the top in elko race, so they're getting to their opponent's 40s. They're getting to the chance of scoring points, scoring touchdowns, finishing drives. They have a high success rate. They are converting the ball. The Vikings, I give the slight advantage to. I'm saying this because Aiden Hutchinson is out. I think I would have given the Vikings -1.5 with Hutch in.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just enough where I feel confident. Market does agree. We talked about key numbers and how much you're really gaining or not gaining, not getting up to 3. This has moved to Vikings -2.5 since I've betted. So that is a little bit of CLV. I feel a little bit more comfortable. I doubt this gets to 3 or for sure not past 3, but I like the Vikings in a field goal kind of a duke 'em out NFC North game.
Yeah, and Tame Impala has a good, or Street and Paula has a good question. Do we actually bet this? Yeah, we do.
100%.
We definitely do bet these. I don't know. We don't have any rules on like how much we're betting or anything like that. So we don't. This falls at some other thing other than our syndicate aspect of betting and how we bet that and how strict we are there. But 100% we are betting these picks. Okay, my pick is gross as hell, but I love it. Give me Carolina +8. Our early model actually liked Carolina +8.5. We thought about giving it out. We were a little uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty around this Washington team, enough for us to not feel comfortable giving it out. I, on the other hand, give it to me, baby. Give me the variance. I want it. The market agrees a little bit. This opened at 8.5, moved to 7.5. There is an 8 out there. There was an 8 floating around. It's moved back to 8 at 2 of the market makers, but Circa's still at 7.5. So we'll see where this thing ends up. It's gross as hell. Basically, the angle here is both of these teams are not, Carolina's maybe got incrementally better, and Washington has gotten better for sure, but they are not the team that is the best offense. They're going to regress to some new number, and it's probably attached to somewhat who they were last year. At least that's what the market is saying, and that's what our model is showing. And so I'm going to believe that in this game. It's gross as hell. This Washington offense is definitely capable to blow the doors off of potentially a Panthers team that could just shit the bed at any moment and just kind of give up on their 5th coach. But for now, I'm gonna ride with it early in the season for week 7. So give me Panthers +8. What is the real champ? A Panthers fan, I'd rather take over Brian Robinson, Austin. Oh, sorry. Austin Jane Daniels rushing props. Shout out. Yeah, you definitely could. There's no prop market right now, so this just makes better television. So shout out. Give it to me, baby. All right. We are into the funnest part of the night. Model picks. What are we betting? What is our money? What's the market done? So we're going to run through it. Model picks for week 7 in the NFL. Just to recap, where are we at? We're at 16-13. This is good for 55%. Now, that's what we expect to win, except we got to bet about another 60 games. Our sample size will be around 85 total NFL bets for the season. So we got a lot of season left. We expect to be at the same win rate, but on the other end of a lot more sample size. So we've already talked about it. We're starting in Thursday night. We're on New Orleans -1. Let's go Sam or Rattler or whatever his name is. Okay. We're on Buffalo -8. This is a really interesting one. Early market has bought this. Circa's already at 9.5. So the 8.5s are gone. Bye-bye. Green Bay -2.5. This is still floating out there at the -120 number. At 120, it starts to get quite expensive, but at the 3s, for sure, it's a no bet. If you want to bet the 120, it's okay. It's expensive. We got a -115, but for sure, no chasing after the 3 if you want to tail us. New England +5. We are on the New England Patriots. Yes, it's gross. We're basically identifying that the secondary in the Jags is literally just dog shit. And what are we going to get out of Drake May? Hopefully enough explosives to cover that number. This might be Doug Peterson's last game. And then last, maybe my favorite, and the market agrees, LA Rams -4.5, now sitting at 7s across the board. Got some positive news. Looks like Kupp is going to be playing in this game. Huge addition for this offense. Obviously, they've struggled defensively. But just as a quick recap, we're on New Orleans -1. We are on Buffalo -8, Green Bay -2.5, New England +5, LA Rams -4.5. Those are the week 7 plays. Yeah, I don't know. Win, lose, or draw. I don't really. I've kind of tried to like evolve or like, do you like it? Do you not like it? It doesn't matter if you like it or you're not like they're already bet. The market is going to do what it's going to do. Some of these I understand. I'm really hoping we're getting a buy low spot for this Green Bay team. Jordan Love does to look to be close to that 100% mark, and I'm really interested to see what we can get out of a Houston team that I wouldn't call them underperforming. Their defense is definitely not an elite defense. And I'm wondering if this is where, we just see more success for Green Bay here. And I don't know. Let's go Buffalo. They seem to beat the shit out of the Titans whenever they play them. So hopefully we're on the right side of that. Again, another great opportunity where formally we're getting to fade Will Levis. Will Levis, everyone's talking about how bad Deshaun is. Will Levis is playing just as bad as Deshaun. So a good opportunity to fade bad quarterbacks. All right, Steve, that's the end of our week 7 preview, our model picks. Anything specific you want to talk about before we go?
No, I just want to thank everyone in the chat here for watching along. Really appreciate it. Please give us a subscribe and a like if you like this kind of content. We'll be doing this every week. I know some of you catch our weekly show, so thank you for that. Much respect. And then let us know what you guys want to hear about. We'll definitely look through these comments and try to implement that going forward. I see some Super Bowl talk. Some Ravens for the Super Bowl locks going on in the chat right now. Don't know how I feel about that, but let's talk about it. We'll run some sims and, get some answers back to you guys. We're all about better and smarter betting. So let us help you, help us out. We love the discourse. So other than that, that's all I got, Seth.
Yeah. And if you're new here, give us a follow. We are going to be putting a lot of content on here on YouTube. We have a bunch already, a number of really great interviews with some of the thought leaders and a lot of our modeling and different technical aspects. So if you're interested in using data to bet, we are the channel for you. And remember, you can get all of the data for free at btb-analytics.com. And if you want to become a member and get access to the models when we bet them, you can also find that information there. All right, Steve, I guess wishing us luck in week 7. We're wishing for a big week in the NFL, and we will see everybody in week 8. And as always, good luck, everybody. Take care.